Hey everyone, Lauren Ell here, President of Republican Atheists. Thank you so much for tuning in. In this video, I'm going in more depth on an article I recently released on Republican Atheists website called Atheists and Humanist Organizations Move Forward in Prioritizing Left-Leaning Political Views Above All Else. And before I get into this, I just want to say that I'm not attacking these organizations. I'm just bringing this up for awareness because I think it's important that we have some dialogue on here. And so when I say atheist organizations, I'm talking about the mainstream ones that we often hear about, such as American Atheist, Secular Coalition of America, Secular Student Alliance. There's an organization called Secular Woman, Freedom from Religion Foundation. Those are many atheist organizations that are going around saying that they're promoting all atheists and are trying to have atheism be more accepted in society. And so I wanted to draw awareness to some things that are sending up red flags for me when it comes to their missions of saying that they are here to represent atheists, because I don't feel that they've been doing that very well, that they've been kind of falling short on that for some reason. So I am going to share some events with you that I've come across with that these atheist organizations were involved with that have been just very far left-leaning and have become very political oriented. And again, I just feel that, well, for me as a representative of atheist Republicans and having to go out and tell the public I'm an atheist, I find that I'm having a lot of challenges in communicating with people. And it's not really because I'm atheist. It's not because I lack belief in a higher spirit. It's because the term atheist has become so associated with left-leaning politics, thanks to many of these organizations, I would say. When I tell people I'm atheist, it's automatically assumed that I'm a Democrat, that I support free education, universal health care, that I am just totally on board with public education, I'm not for school choice, I'm out to challenge the Second Amendment. All these things come along with the term atheist, and it's just disheartening to have to deal with this. And so I'm going to point out some events again that I've come across and that I take note of in regards to these atheist organizations and what they're doing when it comes to recent events, probably over the last couple years. And before I get into this, I just want to say that social justice, the term social justice, is a term that comes up a lot, and I have to question, what exactly is social justice? I mean, on one perspective, we say, well, it's bringing justice to the people who experience injustice and minorities and so forth. But at the same time, social justice has become a term associated with groups that shut down speakers on college campuses and shut down major freeways, that take the public hostage. So there's this, again, confusion of what exactly is social justice, and it's something that's kind of coming up a lot, I find, with atheist organizations. And something else I want to also point out is there's this consistent use of the fist in a lot of these events and social justice affairs going on. And so when I see these things, social justice and a fist logo and so forth, it just has me automatically be suspicious. And I can understand why conservatives and Republicans would be suspicious of atheists, because not only do atheists not believe in a higher spirit, but now they're associated with things with fists and social justice. And so it's good that we talk about what's happening in the atheist community. So first I want to talk about, it's kind of an event that's been on my mind for some time now, is Women's March that took place in 2017. American Atheist was an official partner with Women's March. And that kind of shook me a bit, because Women's March from the get-go was kind of a fishy event. I mean, it's called Women's March, so you assume it's about women, it's about women's priorities, but really when Women's March went on, it seemed like a big anti-Trump event. And so yeah, if you search for Partners Women's March, you'll come to a website that has a huge list of organizations that are partners with Women's March, and American Atheist is on there. So a little bit more about Women's March. Again, it's kind of this confusing event. If you go to the website, it has this section called Unity Principles, And it says, ending violence, reproductive rights, LGBTQIA rights, workers' rights, civil rights, disability rights, immigrant rights, environmental justice. And if you go on another part of the website, there's a place now called Women's March Youth Empower, which has also the fist logo in it, fist image. And this section of Women's March is all about gun policy demands, and it says the priority policies that we oppose are any legislation that would aim to fortify our schools with more guns. And so to have an atheist organization like American Atheists be an official partner with something like Women's March now is kind of, it's just confusing. What exactly is the point of American Atheists? Okay, is it to promote all of these principles of Women's March, which is just getting way far out there? Just, it's a lot to take in. And some background information about Women's March that people in the conservative realm are completely, well, not completely, but I would say many people are knowledgeable of this background information of Women's March, but I just wanted to bring it up really fast because coming from an atheist perspective, I was suspicious of Women's March from the very beginning. There was conflict with a co-organizer called, her name is Linda Sarsour. And if you look into Linda Sarsour, if you pull up videos about her on YouTube, there's all kinds of information. She is basically dedicated to building Islam in America. She's contributed to New York schools having days off for Muslim holidays, which is an issue that I think is involving separation of church and state. She's involved in many Islamic organizations and pro-Palestine efforts, so she's a very religious figure. I see her as. Linda Sarsour has said that Zionists cannot be feminist. She's tweeted in 2011, Bridget Gabrielle equals Ayan Hirsi Ali. She's asking for an ass whipping. I wish I could take their vaginas away. They don't deserve to be women. And if any of you are familiar with Ayan Hirsi Ali, she is a very noted atheist, ex-Muslim activist. She's spoken all over the world. And she is a victim of female genital mutilation. So to see this statement coming from Linda Sarsour, who is a co-organizer of Women's March, is really disheartening, and it's been on my mind ever since I've learned these things about Linda Sarsour. Some other background about Women's March that should be brought up is the co-organizers Tamika Mallory, Carmen Perez, and Linda Sarsour have praised Louis Farrakhan, who is the leader of Nation of Islam. If you're not familiar with the Nation of Islam, I encourage you to look it up and read into it. It has quite a bit of history in the United States, and there's affiliation with Malcolm X to Nation of Islam, who was killed right after he left Nation of Islam, killed by Nation of Islam members. I mean, you can look into this, but the thing about Louis Farrakhan is that he's one of the most notorious anti-Semites in the United States. He has said in the past that Hitler is a great man. He has had problems with entering the UK in the past because of his anti-Semitic statements. So again, to have a major atheist organization be a partner with this event is just concerning to me. And I'm not saying that American Atheists is obviously a part of all this, but it's a background of this event. It's a background of what it's about, what its organizers are about. And that's what I take note of personally, is the foundation of the movement. So I'll meet people who will say, oh, well, I just interpret the movement how I want to. But I do take note. Who are the core organizers? Who is behind it? And it's very, very it's concerning. That's all I can really say. One day I came across a graphic for something called secular social justice, and again we have the term social justice, we have it connected with the term secular, the fist is in the logo, and this graphic said, the pursuit of social justice requires human responsibility, a concern for human dignity and human welfare, and a belief that positive change requires human intervention. These are humanist values. And what is confusing again to me here, as I mentioned at the beginning, is social justice has become such a, it's such a different, it's interpreted in so many different ways now, and it's kind of interpreted by many people as a threat, because many groups associated with this social justice, again, have shut down freeways, have shut down speakers. They do not come off as groups that promote human dignity and human welfare. So partner organizations to this event I particularly take note of is Secular Woman, Secular Student Alliance, and United Coalition of Reason, because these organizations, they don't come off as humanist organizations from the very beginning, also Foundation Beyond Belief. But if we look further into Secular Student Alliance, which Secular Student Alliance is an organization that is trying to spread, or it has spread to universities across the United States. You can look them up. They have a lot of photos of what they're doing on college campuses, and in many ways I think it's good. They're drawing awareness to secular presence on campus. That's great. But they are just heavily involved in very, very left-leaning events, that to the point that I don't feel they're really representing secular students. They're representing secular leftist students, and so there is some problems there. Secular Woman says, the mission of Secular Woman is to amplify the voice, presence, and influence of non-religious women. And so I emphasize here, they just generally say non-religious women. It's not liberal non-religious women or so forth, because we know that they're not going to promote, well, at this point in time, probably mention conservative women. So maybe after they see this video, though, they'll give it some thought. Then we have United Coalition of Reason, who said, at United Coalition of Reason, we aspire to a world where secular ideals are treated with respect and dignity. We are committed to promoting science and reason, nurturing unity, and developing cooperation within local communities. So again, the conflict here is just being involved with this term social justice, and an event that has a fist in the logo. It just doesn't come off as human dignity. And as an atheist myself, I have to kind of speak up about this when I'm communicating with conservatives and saying, okay, yeah, not all atheists are involved in that. There was a point where Secular Student Alliance promoted March for Our Lives, and they tweeted, students from Secular Student Alliance chapters handed out 1,000 signs to marchers, along with our partners, American Humanist Association, American Ethical Union, and Jewish Humanism. And so I'm drawing attention again to Secular Student Alliance because they claim that they are representing secular students, yet they're heavily involved in events like March for Our Lives. So now it's like, okay, so if you're a secular student, you happen to be conservative, you want to get involved with Secular Student Alliance, well, guess what? You're also involved in efforts to challenge the Second Amendment. And I mean, and so there comes some conflict there. Secular Coalition of Missouri shared a Facebook post where they promoted 2 workshop events that are sponsored by Southern Poverty Law Center. One workshop is called Social Justice, there's that word again, Social Justice Teaching 101, a teaching tolerance workshop. This workshop helps teachers learn how to effectively implement culturally responsible instruction in their classrooms. Okay, so what exactly does culturally responsible mean? So these atheist organizations, again, they're just getting involved in so much like far left ideology that it's crazy. And I have to point out, the Southern Poverty Law Center has rubbed many atheists the wrong way because they put atheist ex-Muslim activist Ayaan Hirsi Ali and ex-Muslim activist Mahid Nawaz on an anti-Muslim extremist list. And so that's really concerning to many atheists who want to hear more about Islam. And the Southern Poverty Law Center is basically trying to shut these people down. And there's many other controversies. If you look up Southern Poverty Law Center, you can see that there's a lot of information out there about them. So interesting collaboration there. And then there's Foundation Beyond Belief. And now I want to point out Foundation Beyond Belief. If you go to their website, they do say they're a humanist organization. But again, this kind of comes off as somewhat confusing because the name Foundation Beyond Belief, it can be assumed it's a atheist organization to promote all atheists. But you come to find out it's not. And so I just wanted to just mentioned something that Foundation Beyond Belief put out there. They shared a quote graphic on International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and it was a quote from Obama. He said, "It's important for us to also understand that the phrase Black Lives Matter simply refers to the notion that there is specific vulnerability for African Americans that need to be addressed. It's not meant to suggest that other lives don't matter. It's to suggest that other folks aren't experiencing this particular vulnerability." Okay, so they're promoting Obama's explanation of the phrase Black Lives Matter. But I want to point out that Black Lives Matter has come to be known as many other things to many Americans all over the United States. They've become known as a domestic terrorist group. And I want to pull up what a statement about domestic terrorism that I found was interesting from Wikipedia when I searched domestic terrorism. It said, under the 2001 USA Patriot Act, domestic terrorism is defined as, quote, unquote, activities that A, involve acts dangerous to human life that are a violation to the criminal laws of the U.S. or of any state. So any acts that are dangerous to human life, I consider that to be blocking major freeways. I've talked to some people about this. They'll say, oh, well, it was just a traffic disturbance. But I actually think it was dangerous to human life, because when people are on freeways and major roads, they're trying to get somewhere. You don't know where people are trying to get. Some people might be in an emergency. They might be trying to get to the hospital. Maybe they're trying to get to a family member who's in trouble at home. You just don't know. So by blocking a freeway, you're essentially taking people hostage, and you are a danger to their lives, because, again, we don't know. Maybe someone's, again, trying to get to the hospital at the last minute. Okay, moving on with domestic terrorism, according to the USA Patriot Act. It must appear to be intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population, to influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion, or 3, to affect the conduct of a government by mass destruction. So this is also something to take into account with Black Lives Matter. Intimidate or coerce a civilian population. Okay, so shutting down a freeway sounds like it could fit that bill. Also, Black Lives Matter groups have been a part of mass gatherings to shut down speakers on college campuses and intimidate students from going to certain events on college campuses. So I think that fits in there. And then C, occur primarily within the territorial jurisdiction of the U.S. And so all of this has been happening in the United States. And so this is what I'm talking about with atheist and humanist organizations who are promoting all of these just social justice and very left-leaning events and organizations, is that it's being interpreted in so many different ways. And if they're going around saying that they're representing all atheists and they want atheists to be more accepted in the atheist community, or in the public community, the public realm, well, this is making it more difficult for many atheists, because now we're having to tell people, no, we were not a part of the Black Lives Matter campaigns, we weren't a part of the social justice movements, we weren't a part of shutting down speakers, we weren't a part of injuring students. And so again, these are just some things I'm bringing up. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please share what you have to say, what you think. I appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a great day.